I'm just putting it in.
Good afternoon. This meeting of the Trenton Board of Education is now called to order. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Roll call. Present.
Present.
Thank you. The New Jersey Sunshine Law. The New Jersey Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right to the public to have advance notice of and to attend meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. On the rules of this act, the Trenton Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting by publicizing the date, time, and place, therefore posted on the webpage, the time, and the star letter. Formal action will take place at this meeting. Mission statement. All students will graduate with a vision for their future, motivated to learn continually, and prepared to succeed in their choice of college or career. At this time, I will ask for an adoption of the agenda, a motion to adopt the agenda with the following agendas. First, HR agenda, personnel transactions, new hires, the appointments, the salary adjustments, the stipend appointments, student interns. Finance agenda, resolution to partner with the African American Cultural Collaborative, and resolution with Crossroads and African American Cultural Collaborative, and C, hold the donation of theater tickets item. For the curriculum agenda, these items, proposal to approve the program Power of Us from Filmer School, and a student study trip. Those are the agendas. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Jean Rudy.
Yes.
Denise Johnson.
Yes.
Yolanda Lopez. Karan McKnight, absent. Gerald Trueheart.
Yes.
Jean Wheaton.
Yes.
And Daniel Knight.
Yes.
Motion passed.
On the personnel agenda, there are two memorials. The first memorial. Be it known that the Trenton Board of Education acknowledges the loss of its employee, Antoinette Molnar. Ms. Antoinette Molnar was employed by the district for 21 years, and until her death, served as a science teacher at Daylight Twilight High School. Her dedication and service to the school district, families, students, and the community will always be remembered and serve as an encouragement to others. Now be it resolved that the Trenton Board of Education celebrates the life of Ms. Antoinette Molnar and will place this in memorial among its official records. Be it further resolved that a copy of this in memorial will be forwarded to the Molnar family on behalf of the staff and students of Trenton Public Schools. 1. 2. Be it known that the Trenton Board of Education acknowledges the loss of its employee, Celso Rivera. Mr. Celso Rivera was employed by the district for 11 months, and until his death, served as a part-time custodian at various locations in the district. His dedication and service to the school district, families, students, and the community will always be kindly remembered and serve as an encouragement to others. Now be it resolved that the Trenton Board of Education celebrates the life of Mr. Celso Rivera and will place this in memoriam among its official records. Be it further resolved that a copy of this in memoriam will be forwarded to the Rivera family on behalf of the staff and students of the Trenton Public Schools. May we have a moment of silence? Thank you. At this time, we will have remarks from our superintendent, Mr. James Gerald.
Good evening, President Lane, public and community. I come to you this evening certainly with a heavy heart. I know most of you maybe have read in our paper and in the local paper and through social media about a young life that was taken or consumed this weekend. So I wanted to take an opportunity, as we just did, just to pause for a moment, silence, for the student at Twilight High School. Like I said, taken too soon gives us an opportunity to reflect. So if you will join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Just wanted to talk a few minutes about the opening of the school. It's hard to follow any loss, tragic loss of a young life. But we've had a fairly successful opening to school. Our students have been really compliant, working with our teachers, getting into the buildings. We're continuing to work on proper procedures for entry to make sure we aren't late, because we know that lateness equals loss of instructional time. So we are working with our staff at all buildings to get students in sooner, get them in the classroom so that they can access instruction and work with the teachers. Our students are wearing masks and observing other health and safety protocols, so we're appreciative of their support. I really just want to thank our custodians and our grounds crews for getting the buildings ready for students and staff to return. I want to thank our teachers for welcoming students back to the buildings, building relationships, providing instruction, and really for supporting students' social and emotional health needs at this time. We know that's going to be critical to our success, building a foundation of trust when our young people are struggling and dealing with the loss of friends and family members around them. So just want to thank our teachers for stepping up in the work that we've done in the buildings and continue to do. I want to thank our administrators for their leadership and in day-to-day issues in the middle of a pandemic. It's not easy. I was fortunate, if there's such a word in a pandemic, to be exposed to opening school for 1 year. So the things that we're seeing, some of us for the first time, some of us have seen them for a long time. And so to go through quarantines and working with students and families and reaching out and contact tracing is simply what we do now. It's the new normal. So it's not something different. And so we're all looking forward to returning back to normal, but I don't know that there will be what was normal. So just want to thank everyone for opening school, getting the kids here, coming back into the buildings. I look forward to working with you this year. And it's really an exciting time as we shift and to move Trenton in a forward direction in the future. Just an issue, I know that transportation, all of the successes we've had the first few weeks, transportation's been brutal. And 2 weeks prior to the start of the school year, one of our major vendors informed us they weren't going to renew our contract. That left us with 1,000 students without transportation. So I commend our group here for thinking out of the box. We've been buses, we've been bus aids. If we can drive a bus, we are driving a bus. If we couldn't drive it, we drove it in our minds. We've done a number of things, and with that work, the number of students not currently covered on the route is 188 students, and all are offered either bus tickets paid in lieu. So no student is without, or no family is without an option. It may not be the first option, and we're very clear and understand that that can be disruptive, uncomfortable, and inconvenient. We have on tonight's agenda 8 or 9 bus drivers that will start to fill some of those voids. So we're excited that we're able to hire bus drivers, bus aides, and all of the individuals needed to get students to school on time. So we appreciate patience for parents. We know that it's unacceptable to have to go through this, and we worked thinking that same thing. We didn't want students to be without transportation, some mode of transportation. So, so we're excited, at least that we're in a place where we're better off, and we look forward to the day when all of our students are covered on our route. Just a quick COVID update. I've been working with our nurse, our district nurse, and the Trenton and state public health departments just to have a sense of where we are with COVID infections, quarantines, and those type of things, because it affects all of us. It's really daunting to do the investigation, determine contacts, close contacts, have people away from work when we know you want to work and want to be here, and have to try to fill those voids when there's so many shortages. The district and school nursing teams have worked closely with staff and families to manage COVID-19 infections, implement contact tracing protocols, and apply quarantine procedures for any individual identified as a close contact. The district nurse and myself, we communicate daily with the state health department and the Trent Health Department to determine the need for to close a classroom or a school based on the guidance from the health department. Because I know that everyone starts to say we should close. We need at least 3 linked cases in a space or a classroom within a specific time frame, as I said, in a space, school, or classroom, to be considered a spread infection. At this time, currently, we have no linked cases. We do have cases, but nothing's linked. And in one school, you might have a first grade and a second grade and 2 different classes, and a third grade, and in a K-8 school, you might have an 8th grader. But those are not linked cases. So we are speaking every day with the health department to determine if we need to close a classroom, close a school, to keep everyone safe. So I just want to thank our nurses. They've been outstanding. And I know I didn't mention them and thanking them at that first part, and the counselors and everyone, really thank everyone for the work that they do, and the nurses for outstanding investigations with the staff to determine close contacts and get people in a safe space. Currently, just an update, we have 10 confirmed positive staff cases and 26 confirmed positive student cases since the beginning of school. We have over nearly 14,000 students. And so those are the numbers. And so we've been really good about doing the investigation and implementing quarantine procedures. Several of those individuals who tested positive in this group since school actually came off quarantine today. So that those numbers are lower, but we know how the pandemic works. The day you're lower, tomorrow it changes. So every day we're thinking we may have to pivot. And so we have to be prepared. We've got the Chromebooks out. Every school, new Chromebooks. We made a commitment because we weren't sure what was returned, that we would purchase a new Chromebook for every student again to make sure that if or when that opportunity presented itself, we were ready to make that transition. So I want to thank our team and Mr. Ortiz for getting that ready, and we look forward to a successful year, although the pandemic is alive and well. So thank you all for your support. Renovations at Trent Central High School and Daylight Twilight High School. As those of you who know, work in those spaces, our general contractor missed the contracted substantial completion date of August 30th, which means we haven't been able to move in those spaces. Final inspections, the final stages are happening right now. And we've certainly had some delays with COVID-19 at different departments of inspections. So we anticipate being able to move in those spaces as soon as the inspections can take place. And they can take place in a day, and we can have use in the next day. Furniture is delivered and ready to go, so we're excited that we'll be able to use those spaces soon. So just wanted to also make note, we have 2 new staff members join us, and I know you've seen one around a good bit. Had an opportunity to meet Mrs. Sung, probably on a virtual call or in person. So I wanted to make sure that I had an opportunity to meet, to introduce them, her publicly, and then our other new position, Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning, Joanne Sung, has 12 years experience in education as an elementary teacher, supervisor, director, and assistant superintendent. She began her career as a 5th grade teacher in Lawrence Township Public School. After 4 years of teaching, she started her administrative career in Somerville, where she served 2 years as a supervisor of curriculum and preschool. She served the last 6 years leading curriculum and instruction and professional development as a director and assistant superintendent. Joanne expanded ESL programming for students in North Plainfield and has deep experience researching, planning, and implementing equity structures in her districts. She also has experience in leading gifted and talented programs, educating students with interrupted instruction, and designing high-quality, relevant curriculum for all. Joanne grew up as an English language learner and has dedicated her career to advocating equity and access for all students. She will be an asset to the students, staff, and the community in Trenton. Welcome, Joanne. It's great to have you. One of our newest positions joining us recently was our communications officer. You may have not had an opportunity to meet her yet because she is so new, maybe a week or so. Morgan Glennon comes to us from Richmond and Plainsboro, where she serves as a public information officer for the last 3 years. Prior to her role in West Windsor Plainsboro, Morgan served as social media manager at East Carolina University for 3 years. She has extensive experience with website development, which we will spend some time on looking at our website to see how we can communicate via our website more efficiently. So we're looking forward to Morgan's expertise in that area. And she also has a social media genius, I call her, can get things out quicker, faster, more efficiently. So we're excited about having someone who can communicate, share our story before the world shares our story. So I want to thank you and look forward to having your leadership, Morgan, back. Good to see you this evening. And then I just want to call your attention, board, to bring your attention to item Z on the finance and facilities agenda. It is not, we need update the language to include the governor's executive order 253. I'm sorry, 251, I believe I have it right, but it's the order that's focused on a mask mandate in public schools. You must, all of our public schools, you must wear a mask. It is mandatory and not optional. So we will update that and put that back out on the website very soon, but I wanted to let you know. Thank you. That's it for my update. Enjoy. Hope you all have a good evening.
So thank you, Mr. Superintendent, and certainly we're all very concerned. We spoke about students that we lost over the weekend. Certainly violence in the community is a serious problem, and it's a problem that not only impacts our community, but unfortunately many communities nationwide. So certainly looking at solutions in terms of how the school system can work with community organizations as well as the city to somehow find a way to stem this tide of violence, and also to look at measures that we can perhaps address with our students to think about things and the value of life a little differently. So I just wanted to say that. This time we're going to move to the board committee chairs. The first one that I'll ask to share is facility.
Thank you. We met on Wednesday, September 22nd, and as you heard from the superintendent, we're in the last 98% of the projects that we like to highlight at the high school. City ended up having quarantine their entire inspection scheme, so we're very planning to get that. We've also got two resolutions on for tonight, one will be with Matt janitorial services, contract janitors. Mostly that's going to be over, so we have candidates. Got 15, 20 of them to come in and build a house, so we're having a problem filling vacancies. We've also had to issue some change orders for additions for at the two major projects. One being the addition of science labs instead of science on board. Roof replacement in Washington School is 95% complete and is ongoing and will be finished by mid-October. Pending materials left. Doesn't seem to be the biggest problem. Every task we're working on is the ability to get materials in the timely manner. The other thing we're looking into is somehow working with the city to get teachers and employees daylight, twilight, some sort of parking permit, something park that you guys are not going to think it's not right. And so we're trying to really get their special permits. And also PPE and safety equipment, additional face mask, shield, gloves are being issued to schools at that order, as well as any supplies and products are being reissued. And that's it.
Still working, always care, still working, always care.
Okay. Move to the operations committee. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. So we reviewed the Secretary Treasurer's report, list of bills, also out of district placements. The superintendent covered a number of the items that we discussed during operations, but I would like to acknowledge the folks who made donations to the district. And so I'll just read them all. Gloria Thomas, on behalf of Ian Bernstein, Trenton Corrugated Products, donated $115 to film school. St. Mark UNC donated 50 backpacks to student, family, and community engagement. The New Jersey YMCA State Alliance donated 3 gift cards of $300 each to students and family community engagement. Shine and Inspire donated hygiene products also to student services. JFC donated a $15 and $25 ShopRite gift cards to student services. The Girl Scouts donated 11 boxes of reading books to student services. And Hannah donated 100 backpacks to student services. So we're grateful for those donations. I'd also we had some discussion because I work in the area of the 9th grade academy, and I was very concerned about the traffic and the children getting out of cars and trying to cross the streets. And just would like to acknowledge the Trenton Police Department for now supporting and trying to make that area safer. And lastly, another one of my concerns was as it relates to the transportation due to the bus challenges. And I think this superintendent covered it. So that's all.
Still working.
Thank you. Next move to the case committee, please. Case and policy.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. We met last Wednesday, 5 p.m. I first just want to reiterate something the superintendent said about the death, the shooting of the young lady. It's really dear to my heart because think about it. Someone that you know knows that young lady's parent. My niece, who attended TRA and now in high school, senior, knows her personally. She knows the young men who were shot as well. And that really, we were in the car on the boat yesterday. We met up with some folks at Junior ROTC. And I mean, in the car, rather than having a conversation, was very heartfelt, and you could see the emotion not only on my niece's face and emotion in her body language, but also on my son, who also was 11th grader at Trenton Central High School. And so I'm saying all that to say that this violence has to stop in our city, and we have a role responsibility to play in that. We are playing that role. We're doing the work, working with outside organizations and police and so forth to make a difference and make a change. But the point I want to make before I go into my committee report is that we all know someone that life has touched. We're connected in addition. Whether it's an uncle, a niece, a nephew, a friend, someone you know knows that in me. And we should be horrified by the tragedy, not horrified. And there's a lot of things that we need to do. I mean, I was on that 800 block of Scotland Avenue at 7 o'clock the other night. And that little anxiety, sure. But I was out there doing the work that I was told to do out there. Anyway, I just want to let you guys know that like touched all of us.
Move forward.
So, so all that we did that
Move forward. Get out the way. Move forward.
Board members is
just
speaking,
don't care.
and we're asking for respect. So you come to the podium, people listen respectfully, and we certainly expect the same thing from you. Thank you.
Anyway, so things met last Wednesday at 5. Some good news to report. We do have on the agenda two community partnerships that the superintendent recommended through the Office of School Support for Federal Ortiz and Denise, and got a great opportunity to also meet Morgan Glennon, who came part of the PACE policy and PACE community engagement and school support committee. And so we're really focused on, I think it's important that we focus on financial literacy in our communities, specifically in our African American and Latino communities. So we have a partnership with African American Cultural Collaborative. They're doing a 3-part series over the next year and a half, starting in November, December, and January. So more information to come on the financial literacy initiative that's happening in our city. Wells Fargo is a partner, as well as the College of New Jersey, and others as they begin to come on board, along with us, Trenton Board of Ed, to approve the resolution tonight. So it's a great opportunity for our students community to really understand financial literacy. That's an area I believe is going to help in an area of poverty, helping us to understand bad spending habits, financial responsibility, credit building, investing and ensuring the future, and a host of other ideas and topics that relate to financial literacy in our community. So I think that's a very important resolution that was resolution passed tonight's partner. Denise Johnson's on the committee, Yolanda Lopez is on that committee. We had a great conversation on that last Wednesday evening. We also talked about a partnership with Crossroads Theater, being able to connect with them, to have students leave out of the city limits and go to another city and to be in cultural theater for the theater, Crossroads Theaters in New Brunswick. And so we're happy that our superintendent recommended that partnership as well for the community work that we're doing with all the members on our committee. I want to thank all the members of the committee for the great work and the dedication and commitment that we're putting forth in our community. The other thing that I think is important is we're beginning to talk about community engagement around reconfiguration. We had that conversation. Of course, that conversation has to extend to the superintendent in terms of his vision and strategy and the overall board president. So we did start that conversation. So we're looking to hopefully begin to move that forward sooner. The other thing we talked about was our communication strategies, and these are just discussing the conversation because we know that Morgan just came on board. So just kind of want to talk about things we've been talking about for over a year and a half now about social media and the website and so forth. The superintendent mentioned that in his comments, so I'm just reiterating what the superintendent discussed. We also talked about our TV radio broadcast program for the rest of this month and October. We'll have a trio from Mercer County Community College tomorrow on our broadcast tomorrow, talking about the Upward Bound program. Also, we're discussing other programs as well. We're going to be discussing the Educational Talent Search Program. That's at Trent Central High School as well. So we'll have counselors on the broadcast tomorrow. So we want to learn about what's happening at James Kearney campus and the connection and partnership with Trent Central High School around educational talent search and Upward Bound. Join us for a conversation tomorrow night at 4 p.m. It will be streaming live on Facebook at 4 and on the radio at 7 tomorrow night, and then on Thursday at 11. In terms of our policy committee, there's more in community engagement, but those are some of the highlights. In terms of our policy committee work, we discussed having two committee meetings a month. One of those meetings is going to discuss the student code of conduct, which we're affectionately going to work to call the student handbook as we move forward. As we had conversations about that, but it all centers around the importance of positive student development. It centers around the thinking around student behavioral expectations on school grounds and off school grounds. And if you hear the superintendent just think about that, his thinking, have that communication, he gave us his commentary on how he sees the student code of conduct working, student handbook, and it was very rewarding for me to hear all the things that he talked about. I don't think I can reiterate all the things he talked about, so many things, but the focus was around positive student development, around meeting the kids where they are, around student behavior expectations on grounds and off grounds, and really around student proactive restorative practices and de-escalation and the training that's going to be required and so forth and so on. So we have that meeting dedicated once a month to that. That's going to be a marathon to work through that. And then the other meeting, we're going to have just our regular policy work that we're going to do, which we've been doing over the last couple of years now, moving our policy review and updating forward. We're going to look at also the renaming policy and committee and supporting the facilities committee with the renaming of our schools as one of the items on our agenda for next month. So I thank you for your time. Thanks for listening. Have a good afternoon.
Get up, get down. Second is the union tab. Get up, get down.
At this time, we'll have human resources committee report, please.
County, due to an increase of 500 new student registrations during a period of 3 weeks, 5 new creations were added for teachers at the Williams Junior High School, as well as 2 new council positions, one at Ninth Grade Academy and one at Trenton Central High School. It should also be noted that there has been improvement by Kelly Services and provided for one-on-one service. However, there is still a need for those one-on-ones, and if anyone would like to apply for that position, Kelly Services does have an office here in the Atlanta building, so please feel free to let anyone who needs the job to come and apply for that position. That is all.
Report is from curriculum, which I'll share. So for the curriculum committee meeting, that particular meeting was held on Tuesday, September the 21st. And at that particular meeting, we went over the series of proposals from the district and the school. The committee discussed the proposals that range from social emotional support for students and staff, before and after school programs, field trip, intramural sports programs, community partnerships, world language curriculum, and adoption of assessment tools that were submitted by the district and the school. The committee recommends these particular proposals. We did have a discussion about assessment, what assessments were being offered, and if there was any particular way that assessment could be streamlined. We also took a look at a proposal for a data team and also attendance team, and there was discussion about whether or not all schools have those types of committees, since attendance seems to be an issue in many of our schools. And taking a look at that is important to solve that particular issue. Another item that was discussed was the purposeful use of for recreational, for physical education classes, and looking at transportation and how exactly that would work. We also discussed item WW, which was about culturally responsive pedagogy, and how that contributes to building student success. And so the conversation centered around whether or not that would be expanded to encompass a larger part of the staff for the district. We also were able to discuss issues regarding special education. Mr. Gutierrez provided an update to the community about issues impacting special education. Transportation, of course, being one of them, and of course, the one-on-one aids of also special education paraprofessionals being another. We also discussed again programming that can be expanded to various levels at different schools, and also expanding or expansion of the autism programs. We were very happy to see that there is a rich employment partnership between the College of New Jersey and the Bond program with Janssen Pharmaceuticals, Johnson & Johnson. Seeing this, of course, as a great opportunity for our students. And again, we discussed another partnership which is ongoing, and that is the PLUS program, which of course helps to prepare our students for academic life after high school. We also talked about a program that was mentioned regarding mentoring, where younger students were going to be partnered with older students for the purpose of mentoring activities. So that is a report from the curriculum committee, and I believe I've covered all the committees. Did I leave anyone out? No. Okay. At this point, we'll move to responses. We're moving to whole business. Responses to concerns from the August 23rd meeting, and then we'll move to public participation. In terms of responses to concerns from the August meeting, there was an issue regarding scheduling for new teachers and the elimination of prep time. The response, the board has not proposed the elimination of teacher prep time. There was another concern. Administration needs to support teachers regarding social issues. TPA contract must be settled and working conditions improved. The response, again, the board is not asked to take away teacher prep time from anyone actively providing instructional services to students, nor does it intend to. The board acknowledges the importance and value of our teaching staff and collaboration. The board is more than willing to come to the table to have a conversation about all the items that have yet to be agreed on, inclusive of salary considerations. The offer and the invitation to continue discussion at the table has been extended and remains open. And again, regarding negotiations usually start with one particular party making one offer, e.g. a high offer, and the other particular party offering a low offer. And sometimes the hope is that we will meet in the middle somewhere. We are prepared to move, and we are continually prepared to move when the mediation will resume as of October. So at that particular time, we will move on to the next consideration. Again, class size, class sizes exceed the state approved cap. All classes will be audited after the 10-day attendance drop and a similar response about the board looking forward to continuing talks with the association when mediation is scheduled for, I believe it's next week. Again, other questions, administration needs to collaborate more with teachers, more community outreach to parents is needed. And again, schedule changes for teachers, and again, that response from the board that it does not intend to eliminate teacher prep time. The district will continue to reach out to parents using social media, radio, robocall, emails, and mailings. Next issue. A particular staff member expressed a concern that she is being targeted for union advocacy, and this is affecting her consideration for job vacancies. Any evidence of targeting that can be provided to the affirmative action officer should be provided to him and or the superintendent so that it may be addressed. Next issue, the question was about the district valuing the hard work and the dedication of teachers. And again, the board acknowledges the importance and value of our teaching staff and collaboration. Last issue was the lady who spoke about the dedication of her mother, who was a fourth grade teacher in the district, and she said that her mother continued to teach while facing difficult times with her family during the pandemic. And again, the board responds to that. The board acknowledges the importance and value of our teaching staff and certainly the value of collaboration. Those were the issues from the last board meeting, and so certainly we'll move now to public participation.
Move forward, get out of the way, get out of the way.
The board public commentary advisory. The Trumbull Public School District welcomes the attendance and comments from all members of the public at its meetings. This public comment period is your time to be heard on any school or school district issue that a member of the public feels may be of concern to the residents of the school district. Each person who signed up to comment will have 5 minutes to do so. You will be notified when your 5 minutes are almost up and when they are up. You cannot yield your time to another person. When it is your turn to speak, please address your comments to the board president. Please conduct yourself in a respectful and courteous manner. For anyone whose comments or actions either harass, intimidate, or threaten the safety in person, we will provide you with a warning or immediately end your comment time. Also, if you encourage you to vulgar language or make personal attacks, we will provide you with a warning or end your comment time. Comments that adhere to these guidelines will not be interrupted. Also, we ask that the members of the public not interrupt the speaker during their public comment. If you have questions, please ask your questions during your 5-minute comment period. After the public comment is closed, the board, superintendent, or designee will address your questions to the extent provided by law. That is our advisory regarding the board and public commentary. At this time, I would like to advise you that there are a number of people who have, in fact, signed up to speak, and more than likely, we will not get to all of those particular persons. If you can tailor your remarks so that we can have more additional speakers, so we can have additional persons to speak, that would certainly be appreciated, but you are entitled to your 5 minutes. So, at this time, the first person to be called is, I believe it's Caesar Gonzalez. Caesar Gonzalez. No Caesar. Crystal Smith is the next person. We'll come back to Caesar if he shows up.
Good evening. My name is Crystal Smith. I'm a counselor at the middle school. Before I begin, I'd like to clarify, did you say that you're not going to take away duty-free prep?
That is correct.
Okay, so that takes away 1.5 pages in my presentation. Again, so I'm gonna have to look at a couple of things that are going on in our school that are not going so well. And that's one of the things is that is students are getting credit for being in class when they roam the halls. Now, I think, I'm not a teacher, I'm a counselor, but used to be a teacher, so I'm concerned that is a crime because teachers are being responsible for students who are not in the class. And I think that's a policy that needs to change. And I understand that policy is in place because there's no other way to account for their attendance. There must be another way to do that. Also, another thing that's going on, I understand that now our teachers are having to do language assessment for our students. That was something that used to be done at the board level, I understand. And that's taking away valuable class time from our teachers. That also makes a very big lag in the time of appropriate placement for students. That makes for counselors having to place students in classes that are inappropriate. That makes for teachers that have to teach students in class for 2 to 3 weeks while they get the appropriate placement. And then scheduling must be done again. That's another thing I think is very unfair. Also, I understand that, I don't know if there's anything to do about it, but we're not having substitutes and our climate and culture and other teachers are being used to substitute students in school, and that's taken away from our in-school suspension, which is sorely needed, and a lot of support services that those teachers could provide if they weren't doing the study. Also, the issue of this raise that we may or may not be getting, I just wanted to bring up a point that, back in 2016, 17, the board found it necessary to give administrators, this one-time money for vacation. I mean vacation. Now, I don't know how that's supposed to be considered putting students first. A raise for teachers, staff, nurses, counselors, whatever, would be more appropriate, especially at a time when we are asked to do almost double the work. We work for people who aren't there. We have to, we have to do the testing that we didn't have to do before. We have to put in social emotional learning. We have to do all this extra contact. I know I'm over the joint officer. What happened to the joint officers? I'm making all these calls and I haven't been asked yet, but I've been told that we were going to be asked to go visit a home. But anyway, it just seems that a time when the board is using teachers to do all this work that used to be administrative, and at the same time don't want to give us a raise. But I just want to say that if anybody has any doubt or don't really believe what I said about them giving almost $2 billion away for unpaid, I thought I'd make a copy of the agreement between the Trenton administrators and the supervisors association. tear it down. And what piece of that?
Good evening. I would like to thank Mr. Earl for meeting with us numerous times to discuss the many issues we are experiencing in the district. We recognize that the amount of damage that has been done to this district did not happen overnight and cannot be fixed overnight. However, based on our conversations, we are hopeful that many positive changes will be made. On May 10th, 2021, in preparation for collective bargaining for successor agreement to the contract, the association requested necessary information from the board. After repeated communications, we received some of the information we requested, but not all. We again reached out a few more times, and I want to relay that we just received more information on Friday afternoon, September 24th, 2021. We will be going through that, and hopefully the rest of the required information will all be done through work quickly. I see that a couple of our secretaries are finally on the board agenda for their long-awaited longevity. And I want to thank Mr. Canal for making sure that happens. In a memorandum agreement between the board, TEA, TESA, and TESA regarding child study teams and child study team secretaries, the board has failed to comply and TESA is moving forward with further legal action. In a memorandum of agreement dated June 28, 21, between the board and TESA, the board has failed in the following. Resolution of the agreement 09-20-09-231 has not been completed. Resolution of agreement 09-20-09-230. TESA provided the information required and the board has failed to follow through on this resolution. Resolution of agreement 09-20-09-233. TESA has provided the information required and the board has failed to follow through on this resolution. For the memorandum of agreement dated August 30th, 2021, we want to thank Mr. Earl for his immediate action on it and working with us in making that happen. This MOA resolved concerns with the overtime process as it pertains to TESA secretaries and allow us to move forward with an overtime plan to provide registration after long work hours. Earlier in the year, TESA worked together with leadership in creation of standard operating procedures for registration. We attended committee meetings and for months worked very hard on creating those SOPs to avoid many of the issues we continue to experience today. To date, I cannot tell you what happened to all of that information because the final drafts were never distributed to staff, including secretaries. Tonight, we want to bring some much needed facts and transparency to what has been happening with the registration process this year. I may not get to them all, but hopefully you will give the rest of the TESA secretaries that have signed up to speak tonight the opportunity to enlighten you on what has been happening. I want to start by stating a very important fact. TESA secretaries register new students all year long, all 12 months. We register all students that will be attending Trenton Public Schools, and we register all students that are attending charter schools as well. I don't think everyone realizes that we register all the children of Trenton, whether they attend a charter school or a Trenton Public School. School secretary registers all the children that live in that catchment area, not just the children that attend our school. In July 2020, we started completing registration by appointments only for safety purposes due to COVID. This year, registration was the worst we have ever seen. In order to understand why it was the worst registration year ever, you have to accept all of the factors involved in the registration process this year. You have a person in leadership spreading the false narrative to other administrators and parents that is the secretary's fault why registration has been a nightmare, while having first-hand knowledge of exactly what we have been dealing with. We have documented proof that secretaries were having many problems with our school after the rollover took place. Changes to street addresses, changes to street addresses were not recording. Information we were inputting was disappearing from the student power school records. We were inputting the same work over and over again. Some of us were even having problems enrolling students in the system. So much access to power school has been given to so many people, especially in this building. That information was being removed. Much access to power school has been given to so many people, especially in this building. That information was being removed. Students were being made active again. Students we made active will be put in our class records.
Just need to remind you to, you have about a minute left, so please wrap up.
Oh, okay. This is what happens when you give access to people that aren't directly affected by the mess they're creating. The entire time we are communicating with administration, frustrated because we are doing repetitive work over and over again. We have been falling behind in our duties and there seems to be no urgency to resolve these issues. But the expectation of completing the job is still there. It is important to recognize that you have technical issues inputting information in Power School, you cannot officially complete the certain job responsibilities. Parents that came in early April, May, June to pre-register their children for kindergarten ahead of time show for school they are not found active in the system. Those that came in late in August and September were not in those spots. That caused children that were registered early to be sent to further schools. It is not their
I'm
fault.
gonna have to ask you to wrap up and leave your comment down, please.
Yes. Okay. You have understaffed your secretary, your school secretaries, and instead of fixing that because it is in your power to do so, leadership members have spread their work around under the belief system that anyone can do their jobs, anyone can do our jobs. Well, how does that look like it's working for you? It's irresponsible, disrespectful, and completely negligent.
Next person to speak, will be Ms. Janice Starr.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Janice Starr, Secretary of Washington Elementary School. I'm also president of the program. During the first week of school, families were brought to the board district, auditorium without finding it, and don't really expect it to call me. I'll get that from the state. Tell me why they were taking registration on the day of the board when the secretary were in the school registering as well. Then we also came down here at night to complete registration. Parents will continue to tell us that they gave paperwork to some of their information and were bringing us the rest. We could not help them because we didn't know what they were talking about. And neither did the person responsible for putting all of this together. The school secretaries are so accustomed to the methods that are created by the board that when we came here and figured out what was going on, we took it upon ourselves to start measures. While registering at night on Saturday, we began to keep records of registrations that we were keeping in. Tested leadership made sure to keep a running list of who we were registering. We made sure to have each of the secretaries working evenings and Saturdays together, sign a package each day and give it to tested leadership. We put it in an envelope, addressed it each night, put it in school mailboxes in the mailroom, and we followed through by emailing a message to the school secretary, informing them of what they were getting and how to distinguish from what we were doing and what someone else was doing. Incoming registration packets were incomplete. We were receiving them daily at the school. Imagine being a school staff, receiving a student, you didn't register. The child gets sick. And the parent has to be called. You go to search for information. There's no application. How do we contact anyone if you can't find a telephone number? These are the scenarios that were created by the board. And while we were working under these extreme conditions, it was insinuated that we weren't registering enough. We were registering 100 children on Saturday. And that did not include the registrations that we did every Tuesday and Thursday. And in the evening. Then the email comes out that we are to register every day. A phone call to Texas instructed that we would hold registration, give room, and then input the registration to second half of the day. What about the rest of our documents?
Are we excused from those? If we're registering all day while receiving emails about fixing messes that we did not create, when do we help our parents, our existing parents? When do we assist the school staff with their issues? When do we answer questions from our teachers about the student fit, the questions about the supply order, the issues with the copier? Holidays are back for it. It goes on and on. You have one secretary in most of these schools. Let's ask for clarification on other job duties. No response. That email was sent to school secretary and I directed the supervisor when it was clear that it was impossible to complete all our job duties under this directive. Every year, when it comes to registration, school secretaries share their issues and concerns ahead of time, but they always fall on deaf ears. And leadership continues with the same process. And then, when you get hundreds of parents start to show up at the board, the last week of August and the first week of September, the secretary is to blame. Many parents keep registering.
Excuse me, you have a minute left, so please act accordingly.
It is very important to understand that there are many reasons outside of our control why we have parents coming to register in hundreds. The last week of August and the first 2 weeks of school. Secretaries are registering during the day, evenings, and Saturdays. In 3 weeks, re-registered during the regular work day. 7 additional evenings and 2 Saturdays a week, 8 hours a day. We work over 33 and a half hours outside of our normal work day. Throughout all of that hard work, we are still blamed for the misinformation being spread. This should be unacceptable behavior to the board when you allow it and you are complacent. Thank you.
Next person to come to the podium, Ms. Danita Bell. Danita Bell. Let's move on to Ms. Deborah Marshall. Deborah Marshall. Teresa Mendenhall. Good evening, Superintendent Earl and board members. Thank you for this opportunity for me to speak. Gwen Jones stands with me in solidarity today. I implore you to listen, hear, and grasp what I am saying. I come before you once again with an issue of non-payment on case number 011-600-40279. Once again, that's case number 011-600-40279. A decision was made in favor of 5 administrative 1 secretaries, December 1st, 2018, by Mr. Gerald Listano of Arbitrator, stating, and I quote, "The Board of Education shall reimburse all grievance for lost wages." At that time, the Board of Education decided to file an appeal, which the ruling was in our favor to be paid. Then the Board of Education filed yet another appeal, which also ended in our favor to be paid. The final appeal filed by the Board of Education was pulled and decided we would be paid our settlement. It is unfair and egregious to have received ruling in our favor, but still have had to wait 2 years, 9 months, 26 days and counting. To date, we have not been compensated. I am here once again to appeal to the board for justice and fairness, to receive payment that the Board of Education acquiesced to compensate us our settlement. At of Education responsible for our agreed upon settlement from December 1st, 2018, it is only right, since we have waited so long, we are compensated CPI, which is Consumer Price Index, or some may say cost of living. This information derived from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. 2018 to 2019, the CPI increased 1.9%. 2019 to 2020, CPI increased 1.4%. 2020 to 21, the CPI increased 5.4%, totaling an increase of 8.7%, which at this juncture should be a factor when implementing disbursement. I'm standing here saddened, hurt, and humiliated. Saddened because every day I look around, I see walls being painted, blinds being replaced, offices being enlarged, new carpet, flat screen TVs, new furniture for conference rooms. I'm saddened to see leadership receiving stipends and or bonuses on a regular basis. They don't have to come before you in bed like I do. They don't have to come in bed, but instead it's granted just because of their titles. I'm hurt and humiliated because I shouldn't have to fight this hard. I should not have to fight for something that the Board of Education agreed to disperse. It seems as though this matter to you is a fait accompli. Yeah. And you know, for those who don't know, the definition of that is a thing that has been decided before those affected hear about it, leaving them with no opinion but to accept. Well, I'm here to inform you tonight, this will not be a fait accompli. I will stand here. I will not be silent. I will stand before you until this matter is rectified. All of you, because this is not my first, all of you, because this is not my first time or Will's first time standing before you, should be ashamed and embarrassed. As you look at me time and time again, pleading and asking you to do what's right. I'm not a slacker. We're loyal, dependable, and hardworking secretaries on several occasions, which have gone above and beyond what is expected of us. Last but not least, I have spoken a few occasions with Mr. Rowe regarding this matter. Each time he says, speak to your union, speak with your union. My union says Mr. Rowe and your leadership is the holdup. So I'm asking you tonight, this is my question to you. Tonight, right here, right now, Mr. Rowe and my union representatives, not months from now, not weeks from now, but days from now, let us please meet so we can put an end to this entire fiasco. No peace, no justice, no peace, no justice. Mr. Stella Harris. Stella Harris.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Estella Harris. I'm the Test Executive Board, Elementary level. For the 2021-2022 school year, we began kindergarten pre-registration in April 2020. However, understanding that no matter how early we start, we will always have parents that will wait until August or the first week of September to register their children. Also keep in mind, secretaries find themselves rescheduling appointments all summer over and over again because no shows to schedule appointments. It is ineffective to start kindergarten registration in early spring because both of the parents come later in the summer.
We experienced that many times when our school rolls over in the new school year in the summer, many of those pre-registrations that we completed and entered in our school in those early months don't roll over. And we discovered in the first week of September, when all of those students were registered, don't appear on our class list. Let's bring up the fact that even though school secretaries were directed to follow specific procedures, then being undefined and changed at the same time. We were given a set of information, parents was given a set of another information, administrators was given another, and none coincide with each other. This creates a chaos and a lot of frustration. While we work on organizing plans and registration schedule, evenings, Saturdays, misinformation was being given to everyone else. For the first week of school, the leadership person decided he was going to have an auditorium full of central services, building staff, the pool from various departments take registrations. They do not involve the registration, they are not involved in the registration process, and it is not their scope of work. This is school secretary's duty. Registration documents were taken, completed or incompleted, it didn't matter, registration documents were lost. This leads parents to think that their children were registration documents because their documents were taken. If you were a parent and you came to the board to register with registration information and it was taken by somebody, wouldn't you think your child was registered? Parents were having to return and complete that packet over and over again because their packets were being lost during that day. Parents gave birth certificates, medical information, and applications with family contact information that weren't being kept track of. Registration applications were being taken by people in this administration building in August and didn't appear on our school list until 2 weeks after school started. Parents were arriving at our school on the first day, and we didn't have any information on their child. It was not the school secretary's fault.
Excuse me, Ms. Harris.
Yes.
That's that one, please.
Yes, ma'am. It was not the secretary's fault that our schools were being undermined. And then when the parents complained, they blamed the school secretary for not having information. Gathering parents in the board auditorium on the day should not have occurred. There was no reason for this to take place because superintendent was in complete support of test secretaries working extra hours and to complete registration. It is near impossible to have procedures in place when those procedures aren't consistent. This leadership member knew that what he was doing was wrong because of his action. Everyone involved suffered for it, but it continued to happen. School secretaries that work late evenings, weekends, register, were instructed to inform the parents once their child was registered, that someone from the board would call them and tell them which school their child would be attending and the start date. We were instructed to tell parents that because no matter how many times we requested those school information, it was not given to us. No one from the board called them. Instead, they start dropping these children in classes, overcrowding them, and never informing the school of the child or the parents. There were children being dropped in classes we didn't even have registration applications for.
Excuse me, you have less than a minute left.
Thank you. Children were moved from school to school without notification. They had children sitting in classes in those schools that they weren't supposed to be in, and other schools was marking that same child absent for not attending. Let's talk about the many emails that we received starting September 10th, 2 days after school started, instructing staff to start marking kids no-show after 10 days. But there was a drop. They were dropped. We were talking about no-show 2 days after school started. Why were we discussing no-show 2 days after school started? So that child would be dropped from the road, and therefore the class is significantly overcrowded. After 10 days, he dropped the child. When the parent shows up at the school with the child, he will have to inform them that the parent, have to inform the parents that they will have to do the registration
Sarah, I need you to wrap up, please.
all over again. I'll do this. We deserve an apology. The parents deserve an apology, and the children deserve an apology.
Next person up is Mario Perez.
Good evening. My name is Mario Perez. I'm the TESA Executive Board for middle school level. I'm here to talk about TESA secretarial positions. TESA Twilight High School. TESA will once again bring up that for years, there's another secretarial vacancy that was never posted nor filled. We know this from your board agendas. I would like to tell you to go back into the agenda and see for yourself, but we have no confidence that you will. Taylor Twilight originally had 3 secretarial positions, 2 in the main office and 1 for student records. 1 main office secretarial position was filled last year. The other became a vacancy on July 1st, but it was not posted or filled right away. There is a successful candidate that was selected earlier this month, and that person is still in the hiring process. That's 2 months after it became vacant. So when the work is not done due to the board not filling the secretarial position as soon as possible, whose fault is it? And to recap, 1 position that's filled, 1 is the process of being filled, and the other is a vacancy that exists but doesn't exist. But one thing everyone is clear on is that the work is still exists. And apparently by you sending other secretaries from this board building to do work at this Twilight, you know the work is still exists. By the way, you will receive the grievances for that shortly. Special ed department, as you know, all the grievances for that department are headed to arbitration because the secretarial positions for that department were abolished, and then it was decided that work will go to the child study team secretaries that were hired specifically for child study teams. There were 10 secretarial positions for the special ed department, but the board abolished them. There is a memorandum of agreement in place between the board, TA, and TESA that states that the child study team secretaries are specifically for the child study team. But this administration tends to ignore the very legal agreement they signed and agreed to. We will have a child study team secretary vacancy next week in special ed. The secretary assigned that position fully retired months ago, and that position was just posted a few days ago. This administration is aware of the retirement. It was on the board agenda. So when it takes administration a month or 2 to fill the position, whose fault is it? The work is still exists. Will it be another secretary's fault for the work not being done? We will once again bring out the shortage of Texas secretaries in the elementary school. We need more secretaries. It is your control to fix that. Texas has brought this up for years, and so it appears that you are tired of hearing about it. It doesn't stop administration from blaming the one school secretary left to do the work of 2, not being able to do it all. That one secretary that you expect to read and assist every visitor, every staff, every student, every call, every email, that one secretary is expected to do it all simultaneously. You may think, well, there can be a lot of visitors now because it's my appointment only. Yeah, except for the ones that I let through or sent to the school by the board administrator, or the ones that just have one question, or the one that no one seems to be able to assist when they ask the secretary how to assist them and what to say or how to say. When a secretary is absent due to illness or even for an approved vacation, and no one is answering the phone, the secretary is blamed for not being there. It is not the district's fault for cutting the second secretary position. It is not the district's fault for not providing substitute cover for the secretary's absence. In fact, you can have a school principal or a board administrator be absent for vacation for 2 weeks at a time, and not a word or complaint, and they were even missed. But let a secretary be absent a day or take his or her lunch hour or walk away from her desk to use the bathroom, and the first thing you hear is the secretary doesn't answer the phone. The secretary is not working. Interesting enough, those are the power to provide the support that is needed. Do not take any responsibility for not providing the support. The high six-figure salaries for administrators are barely ever questioned. The America for being an administrator automatically gets to an increment every year because they have so many responsibilities, right? Such positions have so many responsibilities on paper, but let the department they are in charge of all apart, be a hot mess, be completely chaotic, and they don't have to take responsibility for it. It's the fault of anyone from the administrative page to run it. Please, we need more trained secretaries. We are the workers. Let us do our job. Stop making it harder than it needs to be done. Your actions show that you don't value in the assistant secretary. The work expectation you have of us pale in comparison to the work expectation you have of your very well.
Excuse me, you have less than a minute left.
Okay, thank you. The work reflects your pay? I don't think so. While the district leadership gives themselves raises every year, you don't pay your secretary. This board makes sure that administrators receive raises every year. This same board hasn't given their Texas secretaries a raise in 6 years. So you don't pay us. You need us, but you don't value us. You need us, but you don't respect us. Thank you.
Next person to prepare, Ms. Aaron, speak, Ms. Aaron, with Congress.
Good evening, sorry. Good evening, members of the board. I've heard what you said about the duty-free prep, so I will alter my comments a little bit, not include that. Okay. So my name is Erin Condon, and I teach 8th grade English language arts at Joyce Kilmer School. I'm here tonight as a member of TEA, urging you to settle our contract quickly and equitably. Since the summer, our new superintendent, James Earl, has urged us to be fair, collegial, and professional as we return to work during these challenging times. Now, I begin my remarks with the admission that I am by no means a financial expert or even experienced in contract negotiations. However, even to the untrained ear, the terms offered in negotiations with TEA do not sound fair, collegial, or professional. In fact, they sound a lot like the tired old refrain we have been hearing for years, which is do more with less. The first example of doing more with less is only offering teachers a 2% increase in salary. Yet, from what I've heard, TASA received a rumored 3.5 increase. Offering teachers less than other bargaining units does not seem fair, as we are the ones coming into contact with large numbers of unvaccinated students. In fact, many of us have student rosters that are the largest they have been in years. And there is no social distancing when classes are at maximum capacity. And I'm sure most teachers here would agree that we spend a lot of our time reminding students to pull their masks up over their waist. So the people that you're only offering 2% to are the ones at most risk of catching COVID-19, even if they've been vaccinated. The 2% raise offered by the district roughly equates to an extra $1 a day from what I've heard. However, due to COVID, the economy is unstable and costs are rising. The Federal Reserve reported that over the summer, inflation rose to about 4.2%. And the Fed is now predicting that this rate of inflation will most likely remain with us for quite a while, if not go up. So 2% does not even come close to helping us cope with the rising cost of living. But you don't need to be an economist to understand that prices are skyrocketing. You just have to go to a clothing store or a grocery store to see how little your money buys. And please remember, teachers are spending a lot of their own money to help manage classrooms in these COVID conditions. For example, I myself and many of my fellow teachers at Kilmer have had to purchase microphones and sound systems so that students and teachers can hear each other through masks and shields. Those expenses come out of our pockets. I also would like to just, a little off script, address what Board President Lane said about contract negotiations and how, one group comes in low and one group comes in high and you meet in the middle. And that may be the way things are normally done. But these are extraordinary times. Many of these poor teachers are stuck at last year's pay. They are not moving to the next step because we are not coming to an agreement. The sooner we come to an agreement, the sooner those teachers can move to the next step. Many of whom, that's a big pay bump for them. And a lot of them are our younger teachers who need the money more than anybody. Okay, so to kind of keep on with things as they have been doesn't necessarily work when times are like this and you're expecting teachers to give so much of themselves, including putting their health on the line. So looking at AppleTrack, it still seems like Trenton has a lot of vacancies. Yesterday, I counted at least 30 vacant teaching positions between elementary, middle, and high school. And if you look at the newspaper for any state, gotcha. You will see that our nation is facing a serious teacher shortage. And while some districts are looking at creative ways to attract new teachers, Trenton is only offering 2%. So how does Trenton attract new and competent teachers? I think it's safe to say that not offering 2% is probably a great way to go. As members of the board, you have agreed to be the stewards of this district's welfare. You are working to ensure that today's students and future generations of students in Trenton receive quality teachers and a quality education. I urge you all to keep this in your hearts and minds as you negotiate our contract. Thank you and have a good day.
I'm gonna make this really quick. This is quick. You guys said earlier that we don't care. I heard that from a board member. We don't care. I've seen about 7 or 8 people come up here and speak their minds, while some of you aren't even giving them eye contact. Who doesn't care? Not us. And just to clarify something that Ms. Smith said earlier, this is going to blow your mind. When they got that payout, the administrators got that payout on June 30th. I'm not stupid. What's the next day? The brand new fiscal year. So they get a new set of vacation days. So you paid them to go on vacation. Oh, convenient. Oh, by the way, I also honor a signed contract that we talked about at negotiation. And because I'm a person of integrity, I will not speak on negotiations. You all have to do that.
Evening board members, my fellow educators, and those in the community that are listening. My name is Nicole Backlund, and I've been teaching art in the district since 2008. I'm here this evening to speak about what it feels like to be a teacher at the beginning of the school year, while reopening schools in a pandemic, without a contract, and in a building that is still under construction. On the 7th day with students, I woke up and contemplated a mental health plan, but like the seasoned teacher that I am, thought to myself,
I need a mental health day this early in September. Local march, or even do for life. So I poured a little extra coffee that morning, and went in anyways, despite feeling mentally exhausted and feeling like a piece of gum on the bottom of someone's shoe. The beginning of the school year is supposed to be a time when teachers can begin to shape the minds of their students, start to build relationships, and inspire students. And unfortunately, that is far from what I see going on around me. If you do a quick search for articles related to education today, you will find headlines like the ones I'm about to share with you. The Clark New York Times posted an article that starts by quoting the superintendent. The headline reads, "Superintendent of Schools, who would want to be a teacher right now?" The Inquirer released an article titled, "Philly teachers and administrators are end of the year exhausted, and school has only just begun." USA Today had an article titled, "Have some damn respect, why schools can't find enough teachers to fill classrooms," which might explain why we have so many unfilled positions, and teachers are being asked now to recruit people to apply. However, one of my personal favorites I found is that social emotional learning is being preached daily simply reads, "Are teachers okay?" No, and toxic positivity isn't helping, which you can find at weareteachers.com. These are just a small sample of the types of articles that are being written regularly, and teachers are still expected to show up every day as if none of this is going on around us. Without a contract and teaching in a building that is still under construction, teachers that I work with feel isolated and alone. And yes, even though the board bragged about the renovations at Ninth Grade Academy last month, it's still not finished, and honestly, nobody really knows when it will be. Teachers are being asked to have rigorous lesson plans and activities prepared, but also be ready for testing and orientation week, which has been rescheduled multiple times. Teachers are told to be empathetic and understanding to the students because we are in the middle of a pandemic. The teachers are not given the same grace by administration. Teachers are told to teach bell to bell, introduce new curriculum, create social emotion learning opportunities, incorporate mindfulness into our lessons, all while being socially distanced, behind a mask, and without a contact. Despite all these challenges and circumstances, teachers are still showing up and persevering because that's what we do. I personally did not get paid on the 15th. And guess what? I still happily greeted my students on the 16th. And I gave it my all because I actually care about what I do and the impact I make on my students. People might not remember the exact words that you say, but they remember how you make them feel. And I don't want my actions to my students to be swayed by the way I move for good. Right now, the board is making the teachers throughout Trenton feel insignificant, disrespected, and like we are not professionals with degrees and certifications. All because you do not want to do the right thing and settle our contract. Teachers stepped up during the pandemic and went above and beyond. Now it's time for that to be recognized. Teachers are the ones who engage with students during the pandemic and continue to do so every day. Teachers do not have the option of staying in an office with a closed door. Our students still learn during the pandemic. You can tell that their teachers cared about them, even while learning virtually. People remember how you make them feel, and right now this board can do what they know is right and acknowledge the value of teachers and make us feel appreciated again. Or you can continue to beat us down with your words and actions. Do the right thing and settle our contract. Thank you for giving me the time to speak this evening. I'll see you next time.
Marlena, report.
Good evening, President Lane, Superintendent Earl, board members, teacher staff, and community members. Before I start, I'd just like to say thanks for everyone today who said that we should show due respect. When I've watched several board members put their heads down, turn their computers on, and cell phones on, and play, read, or do other things than listen to people speak up here. That being said, I need to let you understand why 2% is insulting. This year, I started school with 21 students in my kindergarten classroom. Now, if you know anything about kindergarten classrooms, we have tables, we have plexiglass, and no separation. There's more separation and social distancing in this room than there is in my kindergarten classroom, where 5-year-olds have to, on a regular basis, be told to pull their masks over their noses. They came to school not knowing the simplest things and not being able to do the simplest tasks, like following directions. For example, my 5-year-old looked at me like I was an alien speaking Greek when I asked them to throw away the garbage that was on their table because they got this in their classroom. When they handed it to me, and I looked at them and said, I am not your mom, I am not your maid, Mrs. Snow is not your mom, no, it's not your maid. There is the garbage pail, please go walk to the garbage pail. 3 kids cried when I didn't do that. And my kids also do not know how to critically think because they've been home and they haven't been to school. They don't know how to communicate with each other, which in the end results in crime. And yes, for 5-year-olds, crime is a normal occurrence, but this year I had an orchestra. I had more than 5 or 6 kids crying all at once. I felt like I was a conductor and they were going for 5-6 part harmony. Besides struggling with the students coming into school, the teachers had no supplies this year. No one realized this was partly done because of the pandemic, and they weren't there at time. I didn't have any of my supplies from school specialty. Last week was the first time I actually saw books from Benchmark built in my building, and I still have not seen anything from Read the Math. While I understand again, this is a pandemic and caused by COVID, I was expected to teach. With what little money I had, because I don't get paid until September 15th, I didn't get paid until September 15th. I went to Staples to print out extra copies so I can photocopy. Why didn't I print in my classroom, you ask? Because there was no toner for any of the printers, because that was back ordered too. When my supplies finally came in, they came in good and bad, then I began to teach. But I'm still expected, without my supplies, because I still haven't gotten my benchmark, even though they showed up last week. I still have my benchmark, I still have my research, but I'm expected to teach and to be assessments on the district timeline. I also have to work harder because I can't do the things the way I did pre-pandemic. I can't sit on a carpet and do circle time with all my kids close to me. I have to do circle time now with Google Slides. I then have to prepare said slides, and it has to be done that way because kids can't see it unless it's on the big screen because of the plexiglass. Because none of you asked us how or what plexiglasses you might want in our classrooms that would work for 5-year-olds on a table. These slides need updating daily. So on top of my regular stuff I do, I have to spend time updating slides. It is beyond insulting that teachers like me put in more work than ever before while spending our money. And the way we get thanks to is $1 a day. When we know full well that places like Philadelphia settle for 9%. Just a little history of why your offer is so insulting. I started teaching in this district 20 years ago. And while we still had differences with administration, we were able to negotiate in good faith. I was on one of those negotiating teams back then. They understood that we would accept a smaller salary increase, as long as we did not have to pay for our health insurance. Except Chris Christie changed that all in Chapter 78. They put an end to teachers not having to pay for their health benefits. And now teachers are paying extremely high portions of their health benefits, and you still think we should accept the same piddly offer on our salary. Just so you understand, the last 2 years, I have technically made more money. If you look on the guide, I have made more money.
Excuse me.
Except, that's fine, I'm almost done. Except I take home less every year because of the health benefits and because of the way taxes are set up. What you need to know is the teachers are this district. In less than 2 days, we learned Google Classroom in a pandemic so that we could teach virtual lessons. We always have and always will go above and beyond. Now it is now time for the board to go above and beyond and give us a raise that equals our true worth. Negotiate in good faith. Give teachers what they are worth and settle a fair contract now. Thank you.
Next person, Ms. Becky Rep.
Good evening. I'm Kathy Gross, First VP Trenton Education Association. On our first day back, September 1, Superintendent Mr. Earl, thank you for hosting a webinar for our district staff. It was a pleasure to receive your tone of compassion. Our superintendent expressed how COVID does not allow us to be perfect. We all need to remember that we are all humans. Our hope is that this tone of compassion will travel throughout the district and become visible throughout staff, including administrators. During last month's board meeting, I mentioned my hope of not needing to speak on toxic work environments. But unfortunately, not even a month into this new school year, we have two specific issues. Second week of school, a teacher at Monument School shared the following. I am concerned with the temperature of the classroom and the lack of water drinking fluids provided for my students. I work in a classroom that is about 90 degrees with no AC unit. My students are complaining about the heat of the room and how it is making them feel sick. The drinking water in my school is locked up, and I've been told by people that it is unsafe to drink. The school only provides small juice and milk for breakfast and lunch. My students have been complaining of being thirsty. Therefore, I have to buy bottles of water for them. When I asked my parents to please have their children bring some water to school, a parent reported me to the principal. I was called in and reprimanded. At this point, I feel like it is not safe for my students to be in this classroom, and I cannot afford to bring water to my classroom daily all school year. Reprimanded for water? You would have thought the principal would have thanked her for her thoughtfulness. Yes. And for caring for her students and purchasing the water. And to reimburse her. But no, she got reprimanded. We were told the teacher would receive an apology from the principal. However, we do not know if that has happened. This is fact. We all know there is a teacher shortage. Yet, why are individuals being treated this way? We do not need COVID to remind us that we should all treat each other respectfully. Think about it. Toxic work environment number 2. Here in Trenton, many schools have been embracing the SOAR process. And it is a process of participating together actively in the resolution of matters arising from the situation. Yet recently, at the 9th grade academy, during a staff PD meeting, an issue of disagreement arose in front of the staff members and the administrators. To further resolve this disagreement, our member, an educator, requested to meet privately. This private meeting request was never granted, and soon afterwards, the teacher received a letter commenting unbecoming. You would think that the expectation would be for the administrator to follow restorative process. We know this as a teachable moment. We need to model, practice, and behave what we expect. On the contrary, the teacher received a letter. So again, is this a practice of do what as I say, not as I do? Again, COVID. It should not take COVID to make all of us treat each other respectfully. And let's think about this statement. We make time for what is important. So tonight behind me are many members who have dedicated their time to be here. This is important to them. Excellent. They could be home with their families, working on their lesson plans, grading papers, still working while preparing for tomorrow. But it is evident how important we want to be here to speak out and stand together. We are making time for what is important. Our members have relayed how the first day they came back, first of all, we didn't receive any notifications about our first day PDs until 3 o'clock the day before. How is that signifying the importance of what we do? During our first day back, many session links were not working. Many sessions did not have a host to present. Is our time on about? So did anyone make time for the educators? They're in the front line. When our students arrive back to the classroom, our educators are prepared, ready to welcome them back. Our educators make time for our most valuable students and prepare above and beyond. Our members, our educators, make time for what is important. Still working, always, always caring. Thank you. Good night.
Next person is Felicia Johnson.
Good evening. So I'm gonna give you a suggestion, maybe you should get a yellow card or something that you can hold up when people have 1 minute or up to the timer back. Because it's real rude to keep interrupting people, it disrupts their train of thought, et cetera. And I also wanna say, wish you take that part of the agenda out and respond to the concern, because I would rather you ignore me than to get up there and sit on the phone and lie. Every time you report something back, it's not the truth. And you also want my member to go report to the affirmative action officer that she's being targeted, and he's part of the targeting because he told us that someone said you don't want somebody in a leadership position at TEA in your department. So how does that make sense? It doesn't. Okay, well, that's not regular segment. Felicia Duncan, President, Trenton Education Association. Before I voice my concern that I wrote about, and not the ones that are written this evening, I want to begin on a positive note and thank Mr. Earl for his responsiveness and his efforts to change the climate and culture within the district. I am seeing from some people higher levels of respect and some movement towards authentic collaboration. I'm not saying we are there yet, we have a long ways to go, but I appreciate the effort put forth by Mr. Earl thus far. As for my concerns, I'll start off with monument, that's where Kathy started off. The same principal at Monument School, a teacher was injured on the job. The teacher had a doctor's appointment at 4 o'clock on a day that we had a staff meeting. The teacher asked her if she leave early. She was injured, and I want to say she got hit by a kid and had to go to the doctor. And the principal said, no, you have to take a half a day. I can't give you permission to miss the staff meeting. How is that showing compassion or empathy when I got injured working in your school? I'm not even gonna need a substitute. I'm just asking them not have to sit in this stupid meeting so I can go get my help checked out. The teacher is a new teacher, and so she was scared, and before she called us, she canceled the appointment. So she didn't go take care of her health because the principal at Monument School, we've been saying that is a problem. That's why there's so many vacancies there. Check the vacancies there. Number 2, Tanga as well. Okay, now, this principal decided to engage my member and tried to call her out in a conversation. When my member said, I don't feel comfortable asking that question, the principal continued. The principal lost her cool, raised her voice, and when another colleague tried to take up for that member, she was reprimanded too. They both had letters of conduct, unbecoming conduct, and then the principal had the nerve to tell my rep, hey, if they don't want to be in this building, they can transfer. I'll call Felicia tonight and tell her. Okay, she didn't call, she knew better than call me. But nothing has happened that we know of. It was supposed to be investigated. One of my members missed 3 days of work because her anxiety from that exchange triggered her migraine. Nobody wants, who would want to stay in that building with that principal?
Whatever. Last, I'm gonna talk about what you all don't want to talk about. I find it disturbing that I get a phone call from a teacher that some pornographic material popped up at their back to school night on a screen. And I'm bringing this up because there, to my knowledge, nobody has been placed on leave while it's being investigated. One of my teachers last year posted a joke about partying and was made to resign because it was on TikTok. And they felt her outfit was too revealing. They didn't do an investigation. They said, have her resign or she will get fired. Another one of my members left her laptop out, and this was a while ago. And when the student looked on there was some pornography on it. That teacher had guidance called on them, and they were placed on leave while it was investigated. It came back that some sub was in there touching her stuff, and it wasn't even her, but she was still humiliated, sent home, and had guidance called. Why are there different rules for TASA members and TEA members? It's like an elitist or classist system, like you get special treatment because you're a principal and I'm a teacher. Please make that make sense to me.
You have 1 minute left.
At the end of the day, we should all be treated equally. One should not get a pass simply because they're on administration or district leadership. The same procedures you follow with my members, when you think they do something wrong, you need to do it with TASA. And if I was a parent, I would want to know what is going on. I think because of who it is, and I have nothing personal against that principal, I think she's a great principal. But you can't have one set of rules for these certain employees and another set of rules for these certain employees. You need to be fair and equitable across the board, because I think that's what Mr. Earl is trying to bring into this district. So do your due diligence and do the investigation correctly. Good night.
Public commentary period has ended, but I am going to allow for one additional speaker, and that will unfortunately end up with waiting on or 1 hour. Ms. Nancy Williams, you are the last speaker.
Thank you. I won't read my entire speech because I'm giving to you because there's some ways that I would like to talk. And I will share in my comments. Well, I want to make some opening statement. Board Member Trueheart, I'm certainly happy to hear that your son is no longer in Lawrence, that he can trade public school. If that's the one that was going to Lawrence, that is now in our school district, and he serves on the school. I can say it, and it's public comment, and I've spoken with you, and you cannot comment on it. Or solicitor, they get trained. Okay, you should be a model. Secondly, to the new superintendent, registration is not new to this district. It's a fiasco every year. And we have city board members who have been through this fiasco year after year. And it still remains a fiasco, and it hasn't changed. And you see city board members who've been on the board for years are not holding anyone accountable. Let me say this, Superintendent Earl, you're doing a stellar job. You inherited certain central leadership members who were here when registration was a fiasco, and it now still continues to be a fiasco with the same people in place making the same decisions about registration and city board members hearing the same complaints year after year, and they're still here. Good luck with that. Now, what I've given you this evening, I want to be talking about traffic. You have a principal in this district. It has come to the attention of the association that one of our elementary school principals, my elementary, that is Principal Walden Gideon, is attempting to track students and has informed his teachers that this practice will be occurring throughout the school year as students' academic abilities improve. And I'm glad the NAACP is here because they may have to address this. We all know that tracking by definition an educational system in which the entire school population is assigned to classes according to whether the student's overall achievement is above average or below average. This practice, and I'm going to go further down and have it in front of you, often results in hardworking students who may be slightly behind, not being challenged or exposed to grade appropriate material. You can read further. The association finds its placement in classes according to a child's skills and abilities problematic and is a direct violation of the child's civil rights. If challenged, this practice can directly impact federal funding that the district receives via Title VI. And I sure know that Jane is aware of that. I'm going to repeat that. Tracking of students can directly impact Title VI funds that this district receives. It is against the student's civil right to track. That principal's name came up 2 years ago with issues. Now, that same principal is tracking Black and brown children. Going further down, Title VI of the Civil Rights Act assures that no person in the United States shall on the grounds of race, color, or national origin be excluded for participation or denied benefits or be subjected to discrimination under the program. I won't go any further with that. Students are quite aware of the tiers being in smart classes versus the club learner group. Why would principal Pitty place students in this peer group influence and pressure? Why are we as a district allowing students, Black and brown students, to be tracked? The law also warns that at all times, schools and districts must be careful to use appropriate criteria for evaluation and testing methods, so forth and so forth. Tonight, we solicit the board and Superintendent Earl to inform Principal Gideon to cease this practice immediately at my school and to send out a correspondence to all district school principals that this practice should not be employed. Tracking should not be employed in a Black and brown school district. I've also listed some sites here that I implore you to pull up and look at the research. This practice is outdated, and historically speaking, we know that through tracking, Black and brown boys were marginalized, discriminated against, and classified at very high rates due to bias and prejudice rather than actual evidence. Why would this district be committing that crime? Why would this district be committing that crime? We have received phone calls from teachers at my school who informed us that this practice was started. The principal will tell you otherwise that it's been in place. No, it has not. But then we're familiar with the actions of that particular principal, aren't we? Let's not bring this archaic practice back to Trenton. Let's not marginalize our Black and brown students by tracking them. It is a direct violation in NAACP of their civil rights.
If you have additional comments for those who were signed up to speak and who again time does not allow, please email those concerned to the board, and if possible, we will respond accordingly. Okay, so at this point in time, we'll move on. At this time, it is open now for board member. Mr. Louis?
So I'd like to, something came into mind on the curriculum agenda, I and J. Intensive remediation in reading and also math, third through the fifth grade, is very good work. So I commend brother superintendent. That's going to make the difference, and you see the results of it in the streets. This is going to make a big difference for our children. So I commend you on that effort. And then the second, I want to acknowledge your support in the work that we're doing to reduce gun violence in Trenton. And just so that folks know, I reached out to our superintendent to work with Mercer County Community College and Mercer County Technical Schools. And his partnership afforded us programs that target recent Trenton High School graduates 2019, 2020, and 2021 to get career certifications absolutely free. For Mercer County Community College, Mercer County Technical School, we estimated that we would get 20 people, 20 students who hadn't made a decision to go to community college or four-year institution or trade school. We only have 7. Did you hear what I said? These courses are paid for. They are transformative. In a city where 30% of the population is at or below the poverty level, this opportunity is free to former Trenton High School graduates. So I just want to say thank you, sir, for your sacrifice. I was on a call with you today, trying to roll this out even larger, so I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you.
Other board member comments? No.
Yeah.
This is,
Just a quick, thing. First question, this is a student supply, and this time is, are undocumented students eligible for this program and graduated from the undocumented students?
It didn't come up in the conversation, so. Yes, ma'am, I'll be happy.
What I want to address tonight, I'm really so quite broken with all that has been happening in our city. And, in order for us to address all the violence that's going on within our youth, I would like to quote something that the Apostle Paul said. He said that in order for there to be a transformation of life, there has to be a renewal of the mind and of the thought processes. And in all honesty, for that to occur, there has to be new learning. And I think that some of the things that we need to teach our children again are values such as the sanctity of life, values such as respect for your property, the property of others. We need to teach our kids the importance of honesty and communication. These are values that I know were taught to us. I know that we have programs in our schools that address this, but I think it's time for us to get together with some of our stakeholders, such as clergy, such as the Trenton Police Department chaplain, so that we can begin once more to emphasize the values that we hold dear in order for our children to learn to get along with each other, to learn to respect others in spite of the difference in culture, in spite of the color of their skin, in spite of the language that we may speak. We need to bring our kids together. And not wait until they're in high school, like in out of high school. We need to do it from the get-go, from our preschool, from our kindergarten to elementary, and then we have to reinforce it in high school and high school. And so I am asking that we come up with some kind of plan where we can engage our stakeholders, not only with the program that our team has been created, gun violence, which I am very appreciative of, but also something that will support that work, and started in the elementary grade. Because we do see that even our small kids, they want to imitate the older ones, which is cool, you know? So let's do something, and not just say it, but let's do something. And so if we can somehow or another get together and reach out to chaplains, reach out to whoever to begin with, it would be a good thing. It would be a good thing for our district, it would be a good thing for our city. It would be a way to transform our district in as far as the reputation that we have being so, I don't want to mention words, but we say about us as a community. That's all. Oh, another question. Next meeting, we will have sanitary predictions. Okay, yes, yes, okay, that's all.
I just think that there's a lot of work that's informing that work that Gene is continuing. We work over at Mercer County Community College, we have people like Stacey Kent, who is director of TRIO. We have people like Peggy Brown, director of TRIO Education Talent Search, and we're going to have them tomorrow night. Well, Peggy Brown is tomorrow night. Stacey Kent will be later, maybe next month. We have a series on TRIO and work at Mercer County Community College, James Training Campus is doing to inform in that work so we can let this community know about the great work that's happening over at TRIO. It's college bound, it's talking about financial aid, it's trips, it's talking about providing opportunities for work. It's a lot of various things, not going to steal any of the thunder about. It's going to talk about conversation tomorrow night, but I think you'd be very interested in the work that's happening at Mercer County Community College and TRIO department. Peggy Brown will be there on our broadcast tomorrow night talking about educational talent search. My son actually applied for educational talent search at Trenton Central High School. So there's a direct connection between Trenton Central High School and the TRIO program, both the talent search program and the Upper Down program. So I'm hoping that in combination with the work that Mercer County VOTEC and Mercer County Community College as a whole is doing through the program that Gene is leading, along with the superintendent, that this other work that we're doing over at TRIO within the James Training Campus will also be informing that work and helping our students to see where the opportunities are so that we can raise our children in the appropriate manner, such as you're saying, Ms. Lopez. But the other great work that's happening is with the August program with Denise Street. I mean, she's doing a phenomenal work. And our program in October, we're planning to have the various community partners come out that are part of the August Thrive program to speak to the work to speak to that work that's being done, that came out of committee in terms of our planning for October. So there's going to be a lot of great work that's coming out in terms of informing our community through radio, TV, like the president said, other vehicles, superintendent's conversation is hopefully going to come next month as well. We haven't spoken to the superintendent about that time slot yet, but I'm sure the superintendent will be like he was first 3 or 4 weeks of August, get the school started, the conversation every single Tuesday with the superintendent. It was I think, very well received, and people were excited about the conversation and the work that you plan to do in the district to continue the work that you started. The other thing, not in on this, is my son. I mean, I heard the comments from the counselor and the secretary. I'm not going to speak to them directly. I'll speak to the board about this. Is that my son Gabriel, when he entered Trenton Central High School through the registration process, it was a smooth process. It was collaborative. It was timely. The secretary at the high school did a phenomenal job of scheduling appointment with me and coming in, and I got my temperature checked and all the proper procedures followed. Registered my son at the high school. I followed up as a parent with the high school. I followed up with the counselor. The vice principal was involved. People were very receptive. So I had a smooth process with the registration at the high school. So I just wanted to let the board know from a parent perspective, as I sit on this board, not only as a board member, but also as a parent, that that's the experience that I had. Now, I can't speak to other parents' experiences. I can't speak to the work in the schools and the registration process and all those things that were mentioned tonight. I can only speak to what I've experienced in the district. And I've had a good experience in the district so far. And so I'm very happy with the work that's being done with the district superintendent, not only with at the administration level, but at the high school level, which I'm familiar with. I'm not sure about the elementary school, the middle school, but at the high school. But the high school administrative level, all the way up to the assistant superintendent, and to you as the superintendent and the board, it's been a good process and a good experience for me and my son. I'm very happy with the process and what's been done so far. So I want to commend you for the work that's being done. Because I can tell you firsthand how the work is being done is being done from where I stand. So thank you so much.
Okay, so I would just like to add to this discussion about vacancy that does directly connect to ordinance for our schools. And so I would have to do it. I know that you're working with the policy that collaborative in terms of violence and looking at causes and so on and so forth, exploring possible ways to address that. It might be possible that you can share some of that information after having talked to the forces. You can share some of that information perhaps at the board, so that a lot of the things that we
I can, yes, ma'am, so.
So perhaps the next meeting, because a lot of the things that are being discussed are actually being talked about at the table with, just as has been said, there's ministers involved, there's all different levels of law enforcement on the federal level. The FBI is there, the state police are there, the local police are there, ministers, other community organizations are part of that entire effort. So a lot of the things we're talking about are actually being addressed, or plans are being developed to address that particular group that encompasses just about everybody that I can think of in the community. And so rather than duplicate efforts, I think we need to, this is just me talking, merge and collaborate so that there's one unified effort to address it all. As was said, it's something that starts from the beginning. And so in terms of the schools, first it starts at home. We'll say that, it starts at home. But then we also have the early ages in terms of talking about peer mediation and conflict resolution. So rather than just attacking the back end, we need to attack it on the front end. So you do that particular piece, then you address the continuation of those things that have been taught at the early levels, and then reinforcement at the upper levels, and then again remediation to all those who are already caught up in the system and things that are going wrong, how we can redirect them. So that's the remediation part. So there's the prevention, the intervention, and the remediation. So we can roll all that into a comprehensive effort. We made in our city, they just have a chance. So just my thoughts on that particular matter, because it is big, it does impact our schools. And so tonight, are there any other comments from the board on anything else, any of the things that we've heard, or any commentary from superintendent or anyone else? All right, that being said, then we will move on to more discussion and action on the consent agenda. As was noted earlier, there are a number of programs on the agenda that are looking to address social emotional learning. And so those particular programs and also culturally responsive teaching, those are critical to our forward movement and also assessing to see where our kids are. So a lot of those things on the agenda are certainly going to put us in a better position to be successful this school year. And so, again, those are just my thoughts that the agenda is very well rounded, and even those things that are added to will help to support where we need to go as a district and for our school and for our children. Anyone else in terms of comments?
I just real quick. I just really want to thank superintendent and the board president and the board for considering to the committee the work the African American Cultural Collaborative and Financial Literacy Initiative. I just think that's going to build planning and culture. It's the same group that was responsible for Juneteenth, which we partnered with on the Juneteenth celebration citywide right downtown. And it's really had an impact. And I think this financial literacy is very important. It will have an impact on planning and culture, not only in our communities and our homes, as folks begin to learn about, financial budgeting and credit recovery and how to use credit, and, how to do a budget and those kind of, how the stock market is all about, how to invest the money, and, it will speak to that planning and culture, I think, not only in our homes, but hopefully trickles into the schools through other work that we're doing through SEL and other board president, as you mentioned. So I'm very happy, looking forward to additional collaboration with other community groups that we're already doing work, right? It's more as a part of our strategic plan, we're building community engagement and building community partnerships and reaching out and actually being the boots on the ground. I'm actually on the ground doing the work, not just bringing recommendations to the board, but I'm actually out there with the people doing the work. So I will continue to do so. Thank you so much.
Anyone else? Okay, then at this particular time, I will ask for a motion to approve the agenda as earlier stated with the addendums that were also earlier stated. In addition to that, the minutes and the obviously the superintendent recommendations. If all those things again, we need a motion to approve those things.
So moved.
Jean Dewey,
Yes.
Denise Johnson,
Yes.
Yolanda Lopez, yes, Sharon McKnight, yes, Joe Trueblood,
Yes.
Judy Nichols,
Yes.
Abby James Lane,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. At this time, we will have, is there any new business? Is there any new business?
So if I could add, just, I guess it would be business, because I've been searching, you've mentioned it a few times, but if there are any conflict resolution offerings that are available for consideration in our schools, I think it's so important, because our children live in environments where people argue and fight to solve problems. And until they learn a different way to manage that, it's kind of like the stuff that Mr. Kuntz is doing at the restorative center. Until they learn stuff management, we're still going to have problems. If we could look around and see what is out there and available, at least for consideration.
I'm just going to add to that here, because that's a big piece of the whole thing in terms of how to resolve conflict and how individuals can help themselves resolve conflict. And I'm just going to add that in terms of something to take a look at. It's very unfortunate that we did have these programs previously in the district, and certainly from the way that things are going, we certainly need to return something to perform probably in a slightly different format in the past. However, the principle of conflict resolution communication remains the same, but again, the activities may be carried out the plan in a different way. So we're going to add those two pieces to in terms of the business, and also I guess we're a little bit ahead of ourselves in terms of their being able to share that information on the violence that would be the initiatives toward addressing the violence in the community that we could add that to the business as well.
Yes, ma'am. And it takes about 15 minutes to do the entire presentation. I think that's
Okay. All right. And so with that said, if there is nothing else in terms of the business, then there is certainly, I would certainly want to acknowledge Mr. Earl did acknowledge our new members of the leadership team. So certainly I just want to say welcome to Morgan Lennon, and also to welcome to the team. We have a lot of work to do, and so I trust that you're up to the task. Okay, and so with that said, at this time we're going to move forward executive session, and I'm going to share the resolution. And this is the executive resolution for September 27th. Whereas the Open Public Meetings Act codified as NJSA 10-4-6 permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting under certain circumstances. And whereas the Trenton Board of Education is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, indicated as follows. Any pending or anticipated litigation or contract negotiations to which the board is or may become a party to, and any matter falling within the attorney-client privilege to the extent that confidentiality is required to preserve the attorney-client relationship and allow the attorney to exercise his or her ethical duties as a lawyer. Matters action, proposed settlement agreement, Lawrence C. Proposed settlement agreement, Nazaro. Proposed settlement agreement, Crawford. Personnel matters related to the employment, appointment, termination of employment, terms and conditions of employment, evaluation of the performance of, promotion or discipline of any specific prospective public officer or employee, recurrent public officer or employee, employed or appointed by the public body, unless all individuals who could be adversely affected request in writing that the matter be discussed at the public meeting. Matters action, legal invoices. Now, therefore, be resolved by the Trenton Board of Education, County of Mercer, State of New Jersey, that an executive session will be held on September 27, 2021, for the statutorily permissible purposes indicated in this resolution. Be it further resolved that action may be taken by the board when it reconvenes in open session. Open session. Be it finally resolved that the minutes of the executive session with regard to the above subject matter shall be disclosed to the public at a later date, and to the extent that the same is not prejudicial to the interest of the parties involved, no longer adverse to the public interest, or does not endanger any individual's right to privacy. At this time, I need a motion to move into executive session.
So moved.
Roll call, Gene Louis,
Yes.
Denise Johnson,
Yes.
Yolanda Lopez, Jerome McKnight, absent, Joe Truitt,
Yeah.
Jean Wickman,
Yes.
Patty Davis,
Yes,
adjourned to.
thank you.